It is Tuesday, March 31st, 2026. It's Oracle D-Day. Today looks to be the day that I long expected to happen. Oracle has laid off at least 10,000 employees of all ranges of experience, and often over email instead of even a face-to-face conversation, even for those with 10 plus years of experience. These reports are coming in from subreddits at the moment, Cerner Corporation and employees of Oracle, including this graphic that shows that day-over-day members of internal Oracle Slack channels, which is the most relevant hard data that we have to really pay attention to what's going on. From what I understand so far, this is the single largest headcount drop in all of Oracle history, and we expect it to go on at least through tomorrow, if not for the next several days. Now, I'm personally kind of in limbo. I officially took a leave of absence back in January through January of 2027, but I did ask to be on the layoff list. So I can kind of right now in a Schrodinger's cat situation for employment. One thing is for sure, though. They ain't paying me anymore. I'll reach out to my old manager in a day or two here. I can only imagine how stressful things are on the inside at the moment, so we'll let her get through that before we reach out and say hi. Since Oracle bought Cerner, we've seen that management structure at the bottom half, which are people that actually understand and do the work, get perpetually flattened, meaning more headcount for each manager. Back when I first started at Cerner in 2010, we'd staff an experienced associate or solution architect and an early career associate or delivery consultant on each project. It was crucial for building our future workforce to have that redundancy to allow new folks to see what the job really fully entailed at higher levels of experience and responsibility and to learn how to do it. Onboarding for the specific implementation teams that I was on were largely non-existent, and creating better training collateral and procedure was a constant need from the time I started in 2010 throughout my time on that implementation team for the next decade or so. That practice of double staffing was officially stopped in 2017 with the pivot to the one consultant model for implementations. It was marketed as a cost-saving measure, and it really was a cost-saving measure, but in hindsight, it was largely to make Cerner more appealing to be bought up by a big corporation. And for that intent, it worked. At least from the we want to sell Cerner and get a big payday side of things, which was the major prerogative of the executives running the show after the original founder of Cerner, Neil Patterson's death. Now, as far as making healthcare better, or the lives of Cerner associates better, I cannot say that it did work. Client and associate satisfaction both fell through the floor during that period, as Cerner continued to take on new contracts but didn't have the expertise to fill them. I personally had several engagements throughout the past 8 or so years that were after-the-fact damage control, where we had contracted an implementation help from a third party that simply didn't know what the hell they were doing and caused major problems instead of helping a client make transition in a difficult time. And you fast forward a couple of years, into the 2019-ish or so, I ended up getting asked to help out with federal contracts. There were 2 major ones that were sold for the VA and DoD. Now, can you believe that nobody else in my professional sphere within Cerner wanted to roll up their sleeves and dive into a juicy spreadsheet with thousands of lines of analytics products with the goal of understanding what they were, to help strategize with the client of how they could identify which were truly necessary, which to recreate in new systems, which systems to target, and then design and implement and actually recreate these things? I can believe that. Most of my coworkers, especially those in our product organizations that were, responsible for creating a lot of new things, were pretty damn lazy, and to try to do a lot of work that they weren't specifically tied to do was not likely. Turns out, though, when I did jump into it with both feet, it was a really interesting time in terms of work. I learned so much about the health IT landscape of the largest integrated healthcare delivery systems in the United States, and the fact that they were both non-commercial and centrally managed was both a huge change from my typical client situation and incredibly interesting from my point of view. That, combined with the mission-driven nature of both the VA and DoD projects, was a big motivator as I led financial analytics efforts for both clients. It's a really interesting space to me personally because it gave me a snapshot of what a universal healthcare environment might look like. Whereas today, and for my entire career, a big focus of the revenue cycle side of things was to get charges specifically laid out and automatically posted into client or patient encounters and then billed to many different insurances, working with organizations that were very large and made policy at scale to really prioritize healthcare and drive down costs was fascinating, because I think that that is the work we ought to be doing to make healthcare available to all people, not just optimizing what a hospital can get from insurance companies, which continually change the rules in order to suck that money out of healthcare and into the pockets of those insurance companies. When Oracle bought Cerner, to me it felt ominous. I was insulated because I was pretty busy in the federal spaces, as you can imagine, but that contracting landscape working with federal clients was just incredibly inefficient and wasteful, and that always weighed on me. We, or Oracle Health for most of it, and Cerner for the first few years, were doing all of the work. But third-party contracting and consulting sucked up so much money that we would have to price or quote things at least 4 or 5 times what they would actually take or cost. When I grew tired of that inefficiency and corruption, I went back to trying to do commercial sector work. I was able to grow a bunch of skills that I hadn't before. You know, it was good to keep busy even if I wasn't generating as much revenue as I had in the past. I created clinical registries with dozens of data sets. I designed and developed internal web applications using low-code frameworks. And as always, I got pulled into client engagements largely to do damage control or creative problem solving for clients with decades-old tech debt that they were really still invested in. It was clear, however, that Oracle was not going to be a place for long-term professional services career. If I wanted to stick around, the prudent measure would have been to rebrand myself as an all-in AI advocate. And while I had been an early adopter and certainly had the skills to do it, I have always been a skeptic, and especially on the pervasive use of AI in our healthcare environments. I still am. I would not label myself an unequivocal AI hater, as I do think it has and will continue to change, for example, software development. But I am more and more skeptical with each passing day as we continue to see these services embedded in places where they don't make sense. They actively erode the experience that people have working with software, and the motivations of putting it there are really quite transparent if you look at it from the point of view of a big tech executive. AI data center buildouts are the biggest reason for the layoffs that we're seeing in Oracle today. Oracle needs cash to fund their commitments that skyrocketed the stock price back in December of 2025. It went up to about 2.5 times what the price is now. And that cash, because that stock price did not stay in that bubble, is coming from the salaries and healthcare benefits of over 10,000 employees. For any of my old colleagues that find this, I hope you land on both feet. I hope that you can take the same deep breaths that I did back when I soft left Oracle back in January, and I hope that you carry with you for the rest of your days an acute disdain for the humans that did this to you. This wasn't done by AI. It was certainly an enabler, and a lot of the emails you're getting telling you that you're no longer employed were generated by AI. But this decision was done by the very wealthy assholes at the top. If you're still at Oracle, well, here's what I ask of you. Miss deadlines, cancel JIRAs, cause chaos, be mediocre in a very loud way. That's all that our customers expect of this evil tech corporation, and deliver them exactly what they expect. Let them know that the mass exodus of market share from Oracle Health products isn't by accident. It's because it's a shit company that doesn't value healthcare or its employees. Make sure those old clients know that Cerner is quite dead and they need to leave that corpse behind.